The money trap. Success on the right side of the quadrant requires a knowledge about money called financial intelligence. Rich dad define it this way. Financial intelligence is not so much how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard that money work for you, and how many generations you keep it for. Success on the right side of the quadrant requires financial intelligence. If people lack basic financial intelligence, they will, in most cases, not survive on the right side of the quadrant. My rich dad was good with money and with people at work. He had to be. He was responsible for creating money, managing as few people as possible, keeping costs low, keeping profit high. Those are the skills necessary for success on the right side of the quadrant. It was my rich dad who stressed to me that your home is not an asset but a liability. He could prove it because he taught us to be financially literate. So we were we were able to read numbers. We had the free time to teach his son and me because he was good at managing people. His skills from work carried over into his whole home life. My educated dad did not manage money and people at work, although he thought he did. As the state superintendent of education, he was a government official with a multi-million-dollar budget and thousands of employees, but it was not money he created. It was taxpayers' money, and his job was to spend all of it. If he did not spend it, the government would give him less money the next year. So at the end of the each fiscal year, he was looking for ways to spend it all, which meant he often hired more people to justify next year's budget. The funny thing was, the more people he hired, the more problems he had. As a young boy observing both fathers, I began to take mental notes of what kind of life I want to lead. My educated dad was a voracious reader of books, so he was word literate, but he was not financial literate. Because he could not read numbers, he had to take the advice of his bankers and accountant, and both told him that his house was an asset and that it should be his largest investment. Because of this financial advice, not only did my highly educated dad work harder, but he also got further into debt every time he received a promotion for his hard work. He also got a pay raise, and with each pay raise, he went into a higher tax bracket because he was in a higher tax bracket, and taxes for higher income workers in the 1960s and 1970s was extremely high. His accountant and banker would tell him to buy a bigger house so he could write all the interest payment. He made more money, but all that happened was his taxes increased and his debt increased. The more successful he got, the harder he had to work and the less time he had with the pupil he loved. Soon all the children were gone from home, and he was still working hard just to keep up with the bills. He always thought that the next promotion in pay raise would solve his problem, but the more money he made, the more same thing happened. He got deeper into debt and paid more in taxes. The more fragile he got both at home and at work, the more he seems to depend on job security. The more emotional attached he got to his job and a paycheck to pay the bills, the more he encouraged his kids to get safe, secure jobs. The more insecure he felt, the more he sought security. Your two biggest expenses. Because my dad could not read financial statement, he could not see the money trap he was getting into as he grew more successful. It's the same money trap I see millions of other successful hard worker people fall into. The reason so many people struggle financially is because every time they make money make more money, they also increase their two biggest expenses, taxes. Number two, interest on debt. To top it off, the government often offers you tax break to get deeper into debt. Doesn't that make you a little suspicious? As my rich dad defined financial intelligence, it's not so much how much you make, but how much you keep, how hard it worked for you, and how many generations you keep it for. At the end of the hardworking, educated dead life, the little money he did have to pass on was taken by the government in probate taxes. The search for freedom. I know many people search for freedom and happiness. The problem is most people have not been trained to work from the B and I quadrant because of this lack of training, the programming into job security and their increasing amount of debt. Most people limit their search for financial freedom to the left side of the cash flow quadrant. Unfortunately, financial security or financial freedoms are seldom found in the E or S quadrant. True security and freedoms are found on the right side, going from job to job in search of freedom. One thing the cash flow quadrant is useful for is to track or observe a person life pattern. Many people spend their life in search of security or freedom, but wind up instead going from job to job. For example, I have a friend from high school. I hear from him about every 5 years, and he is always excited because he has found the perfect job. He is is ecstatic because he has found the company of his dreams. He loves the company, it's doing exciting things. He loves his work. He has an important title. The pay is great, the people are great, the benefits are great, and his chances for promotions are great. About 4.5 years later, I hear from the again, and by this time he is dissatisfied. The company he works for is now corrupt and dishonest in his opinions. It doesn't treat its worker with respect. He hates his boss. He was passed over for a promotion and they don't pay him enough. 6 months go by and he happy again. He is ecstatic because he found the perfect job again. His life path looks something like a dog chasing a tails. It looked like this. His life pattern is going from job to job. So far, he lives well because he is smart, attractive, and personable. But the years are catching up with him, and younger people are now getting the jobs he used to get. He has a few $1,000s in saving, nothing set aside for retirement, a house he will never own, child support payment, and college yet to pay for. His youngest child, 8, lives with his ex-wives and his older child 14 lives with him. He used to always say to me, I don't have to worry, I'm still young, I have a time. I wonder if he's saying that now. In my opinion, he needs to make a serious effort to begin moving to either the B or I quadrant quickly. A new attitude and a new educational process needs to begin unless he gets lucky and wins the lottery or find a rich woman to marry. He is on the course of working hard for the rest of his life.